All right, we're back after a minor hiccup. So the question I was asking you, again, no more bad omens, but the question I was asking you was, who did you admire or look up to as an artist? Or who do you, not was?
Yeah, I think I was mentioning Greg Simpkins, amazing artist, very contemporary, and then David Downton is a fashion, I wouldn't say fashion illustrator, he's more like a fashion fine artist. He kind of lives up in the clouds with the upper echelon over there in London now. So he's kind of, his career is very aspirational, like maybe I could get to that point someday. Looking back to the past a little bit more, I'm always going to get this name wrong, I think it's Leyendecker. J.C. Leyendecker, you'll see his images all over Tumblr and Pinterest. But he was an amazing artist. I think he was German and then came over to the United States with his brother and was an amazing painter, had a great style, and he ended up working a lot in fashion and did a lot of menswear illustrations. Worked a lot with a company called Arrow Collars and just did these beautiful paintings. Like nowadays, illustration is much more fast-paced. I mean, it has to be. But back then, they would do these illustrations, which were just masterpieces. They were full paintings. You could fill a museum with them. They were just gorgeous. He did amazing work. And then there's some other artists now who are doing great work who I would consider my contemporaries, people I'm kind of working alongside of. There's Vincent Nappi. He's in Florida. You should check out his work. Amazing stuff. Nas Abraham and Ork London. They're both. I just gave his Instagram account. I can't remember Ork's last name. Ork Erritley. His account name is Ork London. So now you know how to search him. But they're both in London. Nas and Ork are in London. There's another gentleman I haven't connected with. His name is Jack Hughes. He does great, very contemporary digital fashion illustrations, really amazing. Richard Haynes in New York. I mean, the list could keep going on. There are more and more people I keep learning about all the time. There's one more. There's a lady in Canada who does just these amazing menswear, sort of fine art, pop art paintings. She's doing great things over in Toronto. Her name's Samara. So these are all people now that are contemporaries, but also people I look up to because they all do their own unique thing within the industry.
That's awesome. It's always good to hear. Well, good is a very low-level word. It's always inspiring to hear an artist. I mean, take out anything related to status. It's always good to hear an artist in any industry, in any field, talk about their influences, whether past or present, simply because you almost get this anthology of what inspires that specific artist. And if you go look at those other artists, you're gonna see an even wider diaspora of who influences them and who influenced them and who influenced. And it's, I mean, maybe that's just the nerd in me, but I always find that fascinating.
I hadn't really considered that because then you just have this wide web of influence. It'd be interesting to see how many people have the same influences, and then who says who is influencing whom. That'd be a very interesting web to untangle and just see what happens.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is that, I mean, literally, it would span time. I mean, not to go off in a whole nother conversation, but like it would span. So it's always pretty cool to hear that. I mean, like, can you imagine like doing the same thing for like writers or athletes or whatever? It just it keeps going on and on and on and on.
And then even just the cross genre, like the athletes who inspire the artists and the office workers who inspire the athletes. Like it's just really, I mean, everybody would be connected.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I think about where I'm just like, man, like you should you should never be without and I'm going to call it inspiration, but you should always be looking for content or things that are cool, because you would be surprised where you can find connections to inspire your work. So let's talk about the dog days. I don't know what you call them or our artists call them, but let's be honest. There's probably some days, maybe weeks, maybe months, I don't know, where you just don't feel like being Sunfire Man. You don't feel like painting, drawing. You don't feel like creating art. Or is that true? What do you do to like get that fire burning? And I hate using the word motivation, but what do you do to get that momentum rolling again, to where like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I do.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, I realized that this is, some people would look down on this idea, but an artist is not just what I don't just do art, but I'm an artist. I'm a painter. I'm a creator. I guess menswear is just one facet of how that's represented in my life. But there are, I can't recall the last time in the last 3 or 4 years when I did not want to paint. Honestly, I know that day is probably coming where I'll feel burned out or feel unfulfilled for some reason. But at this moment, these last 4 years, like I know who I am and what I want. I think I find different ways to express it, to keep things interesting, to keep inspiration flowing. Coffee, honestly, is one of the best ways for me to stay interested. Wake up each morning, brew myself a cup of coffee, and that's just part of my creative process in the morning, and that just gets me excited to paint and draw. And I'm never without a sketchbook or a pencil or a pen. Almost never. I think 99% of the time I have something available, whether I'm at the movie theater. Like, I could ever draw at the movie theater. Like, it's impossible, but it's there in case I have the desire or the urge. I'm always wanting to create, draw, paint in some way. And I know that sounds impossible, but that's where I'm at in life.
Oh, I believe you. I don't think it's impossible at all. And I say this, and everybody goes through different peaks and valleys and seasons of creating or doing anything. But when you're present, mind, body, heart, soul, whatever, and you're just engaged in what you're doing, there's no time. I mean, I believe you simply because you answer the question by saying, I think it's 3 or 4 years now, because you haven't really been paying attention, which is the key. I think when we try to say, okay, I'm going to create this project, this opus of my work, and it needs to be done by July 15th, and you get further and further along the road, and you get closer to it, and you have to push it back, and other things happen, like you have a baby, or you get a promotion at work, or whatever. Yeah, you're due for burnout. You're due for let's just say, a reprioritization of your priorities. But no, I agree with you. I'm not there yet, but I say that not because I don't want to do what I do every day. It's just more so that, like, I don't carry around a sketchbook or anything like that yet, but I do definitely always have something to write down what I'm thinking about with the site or in general, because I can't tell you how many times I've either been getting out of the shower or walking to work, and I'm like, okay, where's my pen and paper, because I need to write this down, because I'll forget the second I hear a horn or you hear a bird flying by, and you're like, wait, what was I thinking about? And you'll be depressed because you did not capture that moment. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to, I really like James Altucher, and his whole idea of idea sex. Do you know James is?
Oh, very, very well.
Okay. I would assume so, but yeah, amazing. But yeah, so like if you can write those ideas down, you can create some amazing idea sex babies down the line. Yeah, it's really important to capture those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and it's funny because and this interview is definitely not about me, but I took his. Well, it's not even really. He has a separate challenge, but I told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write down ideas every day, and he has said that if he writes down ideas every day, in 6 months his life changes or goes up a whole nother level. I was like, you know what? I want to see how this works. I kid you not. I mean, and again, we're not interviewing me, but I kid you not. It is. I mean, you can't be expecting it, so to speak. You just have to do it, put your head down and do the work. But it is amazing how many are, just like how we're talking about when I look at Matt Miller's influences, and then I look at an influence on Matt Miller, and I look at how that artist or that person, who they were influenced by, it just, you start to have this mental pathway of connections that is just, it's absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Man, I don't even remember the question now that led us down that path, but yeah, the ideas, like, oh yeah, you should definitely carry around a sketchbook. I'd say even with your iPhone, just have a note that's always open, so you can pull it open, write down one word. What was the impetus of that thought, and maybe it'll bring that thought back. I don't know, but that's huge.
Yeah, I really need to start doing it because it's like basically at least once a day where I'm just like, I don't think it has anything to do with age, you know. For some people, like, oh, I don't remember what I used to, you know, when I was younger. No, I just think as humans and as, you know, living in our culture, there's so many different things going on that if you don't have a repository of thought, you will not think, you know, or you can go back to what you thought. But wow, that's a whole other conversation. That's awesome. But it's not. So let's get back on track here. And actually, I have two questions, and they're kind of deep, but I'm sure you'll be able to handle them. The first one, and feel free to cheat. It doesn't have to be just one per se, but I would like to know the one single project. But what is the one single project or task or apprenticeship, whatever, that you consider the most significant accomplishment or just impetus driver in your career so far, and why?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question that I don't know if I've considered fully. One thing that I would have to say, it's not directly related to menswear illustration, but that's had a huge impact on my life and the career that I've taken, is I worked at a nonprofit in Atlanta, Georgia. I lived in Atlanta for 4 years, and I got to work with a bunch of kids. Well, so let me tell you about this nonprofit. It's called One Love Generation. Jennifer Lingval she's the lady who runs it. She now has a crew of people, I think, or at least one person, Ashley, who's an amazing, amazing fine artist and a great teacher. But I got to work with Jennifer for a while, volunteering, and then for a short while as an employee of this nonprofit, where we would work with students in Atlanta who were artists of their own right, students who wanted to be artists, and we would work with them. We would bring in artists. We would have art programs, and working with these kids was amazing. But Jennifer was probably one of the biggest influences on how I run my life. She's amazing. I could talk about her all day, but working with Jennifer, kind of learning under her for a little while at One Love Generation in Atlanta, probably to this point the biggest impact on what I'm doing now.
Now, just to dig a little deeper, and that's a great. I didn't see that answer coming, but
yeah.
answer. Now, what was just one facet of working with her that changed your perspective on what you can do and how you can do it?
She did I haven't figured this out quite yet. And I tried really hard when I was there. She did everything. And I don't know how she did everything and still did other things on top of that. I know it's really vague, but that's the best way I can describe it. She also ran or helped run an event company kind of on the side. But I guess that's where she brought her income in, and then she would run this nonprofit. And I don't know, she went out, got funding. She figured out how to register it. She figured out how to go get the students in, so she had to go talk to these schools and the teachers, and then she had this whole application process. She had to work with all the volunteers. She organized all of the events that were a part of it. Like if, maybe at the end of each year, there's a gallery showing where the kids show their work, but she organizes all of that, and she ran this event company. One of the strongest, most amazing people I've known. I don't know how she still does it. Boggles my mind. That's something I've been trying to figure out. Time management, just her ability and drive to do it all really well at the same time. Like she didn't half-ass anything. It was, I'm still trying to figure that out.
So, I mean, to sort of tie everything up, she has superpowers that you will never understand. I mean,
right, exactly.
I'm kind of joking with that, but when someone does something so well where you can't even articulate it other than say, how did she do that? Yeah.
And when I figure it out, I'll send you an email and say, David, I finally figured it out.
Yeah, that's, please, seriously, if you do figure it out, that can only help. I can only help us all. All right, last question. And once again, I mean, I want to thank you for just coming on and talking. Use the word interview, and I think that is sort of rigid. I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I want to talk with you and creators and masters of their craft is not because I want to do what you do or anything like that. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, sure. I wish I could articulate the visual essence of a Panerai watch like I was talking about before we started the call here. But I believe that when you create stuff, even if to a certain segment of society, like you were saying, that it's kind of tough to get people to understand the marketing or the platform men's illustration of fashion can be, you do things that I would say the untrained eye just sees as commonplace, and I see it. I'm not saying that my eye is any more trained than anybody else, even though it probably is, but I feel like you do, and you create pieces of art that are so inspiring. You have to dig deeper. You have to dig deeper. Whether it's the 100 Watches project, I remember telling myself, I was like, would it be wrong if I emailed myself this article and found a way to put it in the background of my phone? What did my wife say? Shouldn't do it, but definitely this dude makes pretty cool stuff, So again,
no, I would encourage that. Do that.
I will. I mean, I will. And to finish my point, one of the reasons why I want to talk to people like yourself is that you're creating things and you're not mystical. I mean, right. You're not. I mean, yes, you have a heightened level of technical skill that the majority, 99.9% of the world, cannot harness on a regular basis, but the things and the perspective that has gotten you there is not above any of us. So that's one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to reach out. And that actually takes me to the last question, finally, which is, don't want to ever focus on giving other people advice, but looking at your career or your path, your journey or adventure to this point, what is the one thing or the two things where you can say, man, I'm glad I did it this way? Or on the flip side of that, I will never do X again?
I have a never do X again right off the top of my head. So I turned 20, and I spent my whole life growing up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Beautiful town, love it. Lived at home the entire time. I turned 20, and I decided that I didn't know anything about the world. I didn't know how to survive on my own, and I had to leave. So I packed up my van, and I moved to Atlanta. Didn't know anybody, didn't have a job, didn't have a place to stay. I just drove. And I will not do that again, and this is why. Next time I'll be at least slightly prepared. I arrived 5 o'clock in the morning. I had made a pit stop in Missouri. 14 hours later, from Missouri to Atlanta, I'm arriving 5 o'clock in the morning. Drive around all day. I'm there for a conference that I had signed up for because it was in Atlanta, and it was that night, and I needed to find a place to stay. Barely found a place to stay at a hostel on Ponce de Leon and Peachtree, and so I'm there. Conference is pretty cool. Go to sleep, wake up in the morning. My van is broken into, several things stolen, and I'm in Atlanta, very little money, don't know anybody, and I'm trying to figure it all out. Great experience, really scary, really amazing. I will not do it again. It was really stressful. Next time I will have at least a small plan when I go somewhere. But this is what started me on my journey. Atlanta is where I volunteered at Will Love Generation. It's where I started in menswear illustration. So it was really important, but I'll never do it that way again.
It's important to note that even though that was a launching point for what you're experiencing now, you learned your lesson as far as, hey, going forward. Let's attack the unknown, but let's at least have a direction other than let's go.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. Well, Matthew, Sunflower Man, do you prefer any of those three, or does it depend on the time, the place, and the company you keep?
Yeah, my family doesn't call me Sunflower Man, so I usually don't hear that around the home. But anywhere else I go, people know me more by Sunflower Man than by Matthew. That's really funny. Recently, I went to a conference, and it was a trade show, and I introduced myself as Matthew, and people were like, okay, cool. And then a couple minutes later, they would find out I'm Sunflower Man, and they would freak out, like, oh, you're Sunflower Man. I know exactly who you are. That's just a little anecdote there. So lots of people know me as Sunflower Man. That's the best way to find me on Google, just Sunflower Man on social media. But people call me Matthew or Matt, so I go by all three.
Awesome. I mean, you understand that you're like the artistic version of Bruce Wayne, right? You understand, right?
No, I haven't heard that before, and I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need to embrace it now.
Yeah.
I give you permission to embrace it. Well, Matt, I appreciate you taking out the time to do this interview. Man, I would love to talk again in the future, just because, and I make sure that we talk more about watches. But yeah, man, this was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, this was fantastic. I'd love to get to know more about you the next time we talk. It doesn't have to be all about me.
Deal. Well,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.